guys, today we're going to start target 9D. We're starting our KC9 unit, and the unit 9 is going to be all sorts of out of order, like I was saying. So we're starting with 9D. We're starting with the last target. And 9D is just solving radical equations. So before we do that, we're going to kind of, again, look at solving equations. We looked at this a lot last unit, but some of us are kind of still struggling. Oops, sorry, guys. So remember, if we look at number 1, we call this a linear equation because we only have an x. We don't have an x squared. Okay? When you have a linear equation, x's go on one side and constants go on the other. So right now I have 6x minus 5 equals 31. So all my x's are on the left, so I'm going to move my constants to the right. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Alright, so 6x equals 36. Divide by 6. X equals 6. Right? It seems really basic. It should be. Right? But a lot of us are still struggling with our equations sometimes. Looking at number 2. Now, number 2 is a quadratic. It has that x squared term. Okay? So it's different, right? Linear, like number 1, x's to one side, constants to the other. Number 2, everything to one side. We want it equal to 0. So what I'm going to do for number 2 is I'm going to subtract 73 from both sides. And I get 8x squared minus, so 1 minus 73 is negative 72, is 0. Now, this is a factoring problem. Okay? First, I have to look for a greatest common factor. I have one. I have one in 8. That's x squared minus 9 that I'm left with. Now, x squared minus 9 factors to x plus 3, x minus 3. So then x equals negative 3 and positive. All right, so now looking at what we are actually working on today. Okay. Working with radicals. To solve a radical equation with an nth root. We say nth root because it can be any type of root. It can be a square root. It can be a cube root. It can be like some of these are 100th root. Okay? Isolate the nth root. Okay, that's your first step. So get it by itself. Second, raise both sides to the n power. So whatever the root is, you then raise it to that power. So looking here, this is a square root. Square roots have that imaginary 2 there. So I'm going to raise it to the second power, right? The square root of 5 squared is just 5. Same thing here. The 5th root of 5, I'm going to raise it to the 5th power. That also equals 5. It just gets rid of that root. The 100th root of 5, if I raise it to the 100th power, it just gets rid of that root. Then solve whatever you get. Then step 4 is super, super duper important for these types of problems. Super duper important. You have to check your solutions because you will get solutions that don't work. Alright, so let's look at some examples. Number 1, 3 times the square root of x plus 3 equals 15. So this is my power, whatever is under my radical. Right, so that's my nth root. Right, I want to get that by itself. So it's just like getting x by itself. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3 from both sides. Now I have 3 root 3 equals, right, 3 minus 3 is 0, 15 minus 3 is 12. And I am still getting this root 3 by itself. Sorry, I don't know why I put it together there. That should be an x. Makes no sense. Sorry, that should be 3 root x. I'm still getting this root x by itself. 1. So I want to divide by 3. So then the root x equals 4. And then my last step, right, is to raise to the power. Right, so this is a square root, so I'm going to square it. So x equals 4 squared is 16. Then I need to check my answer. I need to plug it back in. You have to do this. You have to. 3 times the square root of 16 plus 3 equals 15. Right? Oh, the square root of 16 is 4, so 3 times 4 plus 3. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3. 15 equals 15. So my answer works out. Right? If they come out to where both sides are equal to each other, right, then you're good. All right, looking at number 2. Now, x plus 7 is what's under my root, right? It's the square root of x plus 7. So I'm getting that whole thing by itself. So I'm going to start by adding 5. So I have the square root of x plus 7 equals x plus 5. Now that I have this, I want to square both sides. So I'm squaring both sides. I'm squaring both sides. Right? So I'm not just squaring x, I'm not just squaring 5. I'm squaring x plus 5. What that means is I now have x plus 7, right? My square root goes away, equals x plus 5 squared is the same as x plus 5 times x plus 5. Okay. So I get x plus 7 equals, right? Squaring this, I get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25, which is x plus 7 equals x squared plus 10x plus 25. Okay. Now, going back to our review of prior concepts, right, this is a squared. I have an x squared in my equation, so I need to get it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract 7 from both sides. So I now have 0 equals x squared plus 9x plus 18. Factoring this, what multiplies to 18 adds to 9, that's going to be 6 and 3. Alright, it's not 0 equals, so now I can say what x equals. X equals negative 6 and negative 3. Alright, I do need to check my answers. The square root of negative 6 plus 7 minus 5 should equal negative 6. The square root of, right, that's just 1 minus 5 equals negative 6. The square root of 1 is 1 minus 5 equals negative 6. 1 minus 5 is negative 4 equals negative 6. See how that does not work? So negative 6 does not work as one of my answers. I'm going to do the same thing for negative 3. The square root of negative 3 plus 7 minus 5 equals negative 3. Right? I plug a negative 3 in for both of my x's. That's the square root of negative 3 plus 7 is 4. Minus 5 equals negative 3. The square root of 4 is 2 minus 5 equals negative 3. So negative 3 equals negative 3. That one does work. So my only answer that works here is x equals negative 3. Alright, last problem. I have the cube root of 2x plus 5 plus 6 equals 3. So, I want to get this cube root of 2x plus 5 by itself. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So the cube root of 2x plus 5 equals, right, 3 minus 6 is negative 3. Now that I have it by itself, I need to raise it to this power. So I'm going to raise everything to the third instead of the second. So I have 2x plus 5 equals, now negative 3 to the third. Be careful, I need to type it in my calculator just like this. Okay, I need parentheses. There's parentheses, okay? Because it's a negative. So negative 3 in parentheses, then to the third. And you get negative 27. So then, now I'm just solving for x. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. 2x equals negative 27 minus 5 is negative 32. Then divide both sides by 2. Negative 32 divided by 2 is negative 16. Our check, right, the cube root of 2 times negative 16 plus 5 has to equal negative 3. That's the cube root of negative 32 plus 5 equals negative 3. That's the cube root of negative 27 equals negative 3. And then here, you can just type that into your calculator. The cube root of negative 27, you get negative 3 equals negative 3. That checks out. So x equals negative 3. So again, these ones you really do have to check. As you see on number 2, that one of our answers just did not work when I plugged it back in. So if you don't check your answer, you will get it incorrect. Alright, that is all I have for you guys. I will see you tomorrow.